Yo guys, how's it going? It's Market Scraper, and in this episode, we're going to talk specifically about the concern that we're seeing at the moment with Tesla stock. We can see that the 200-day moving average is starting to creep above the 50-day moving average, and why this is significant is that this is considered a death cross. Now, we're going to go through a few things, just what people think about death crosses, what I personally think about death crosses, and also we're going to take a look at some historical analysis and to see what actually has happened and if it's something that we should actually be concerned about, not concerned about. So let's take a look. So we can see over here, one thing that has brought death cross to the forefront is with Bitcoin lately. We can see with Bitcoin, basically, we had a death cross with these two lines right over here. And basically what's happened, has it been bullish? Has it been bearish? Let's take a look. So we can see that and in this video, in terms of the colors, the blue line is the 200-day moving average, and the purple line is the 50-day moving average. And we can see that we had that cross right here. So what had happened with price? So right here is when we had that cross, essentially. And we can see, basically, this was bearish. We had some more lower price action after this happened. This was a signal that could have been a good sell signal. Now, there's a couple things to just keep in mind here with Tesla stock and with Bitcoin. First of all, does it make a difference that the death cross is below price? Because in general, like when you see moving averages and you see even multiple moving averages down below here, we can see that this moving average cluster right over here was a little bit of a support. This helped keep price above this level here. We see that we opened right below it and then quickly went back above this level here. In addition, of course, we also have this trend line here that's also acting as support. But the question is this bearish now? Should we be concerned? And keep in mind that none of this is financial advice. This is just pure entertainment purposes only. Okay, but let's look at this. So my initial instinct here, well, before I get into that, let's look at the historical analysis to think about what is actually happening. And maybe I can change my own perspective in mind about if we should be bearish or bullish about this. So let's take a look over here. We're looking at QQQ. This is the NASDAQ, and we're going to be taking a look basically at all of the times that we saw a death cross happen. Remember, the blue is a 200-day moving average, and the purple is the 50-day moving average. And so whenever the blue line goes over the purple line is the death cross that we're going to be watching out for. And I marked all of them for the past 8 years or so. So let's take a look at this. And we're also, remember, we're paying attention to the scenarios, the differences between what it means when we see a death cross appear below and below price, and also what it means when it appears above price. And does it make a difference in terms of whether we should be more bullish, more bearish? And maybe it doesn't, maybe it does, but we're going to try to find that out right now. So the last time we had a death cross, it was in early 2020, right after the massive market crash from the pandemic. So we can see we had the recovery here, and okay, we had a death cross right here. And what happened with price? Well, price continued to go up. We had a slight give back and continued to go higher. This would have not been a good point to sell. Okay, and keep in mind, this death cross happened below price action, meaning price is above it. And this is also after a massive crash and a start of a recovery. Massive crash, start of recovery. Massive crash. Why am I pointing that out like a million times? Well, with Tesla stock, we also just need to be thinking about we have a massive crash. And then now we're starting to have somewhat of a recovery here. This is definitely somewhat of a recovery at the moment that we're seeing at the moment. Unlike maybe like Bitcoin, we have not seen any semblance of a recovery here. We're just going sideways and lower. This is not a recovery yet. We might be in the verge of seeing a recovery, but we have not seen one yet. So this is another difference. Plus, again, with Bitcoin, this was above price action. Price action was below this death cross. So let's take a look back. So we can see the other examples. Let's go back in time more. The previous example was in 2018. We had basically the scare from rates being increased and we had somewhat of a market crash here, right? So we can see that we had a death cross here, and this happened above price action. Okay, so it's happening above price action, and this would have been a great time to sell. Interesting. So we're seeing that death crosses are in fact, at least in our with our very anecdotal experience so far in terms of the data points, this would have been a good time to sell. So good time to sell. This would have been a good time to buy. And let's basically keep track of all the buys and sells, and let's just tally them up after we're done with this, right? So let's take a look at the next occurrence and what happened here. We can see that this occurrence over here, the death cross happened, and in this case, it happened above price action. Price action was below it, and this was in the middle of a sell-off. However, we can see that before this cross actually happened, we started to recover. So there's a few different variables to be paying attention to. There's this idea that, well, was price starting to recover? That's one question. And we can see over here, price was starting to recover in some sense. So this was an example against it. So it's starting to recover, but price was underneath the death cross. So this is a combination of things here that could give us some clues essentially. So we can see that this would have been a good time to buy. So buy. Let's look over here. This right here, death cross. Okay, right here, death cross. And then we had a sell-off. So we're putting a sell here. Also happened above price action. So another case where it happened above price action. So we have another example over here. This would have been a good area to buy. So we're going to put buy. We can see that basically this was, again, also a start of a recovery here. So that's, again, an interesting note to take a note of here. And we're also just getting some data to see if we should even pay any attention to this or this is completely random, right? Now what happened over here? This is back in 2012. We can see that the death cross happened right here. This would have been a good time to sell. Price action went lower, and not only in the short term, but price action went even further down. So we're going to say that this was a good time to sell. I think that's all I had so far. So let's take a tally. We have 1, 2, 2 to 2, 3, 3. We have a split of 3 sells and 3 buys. Now, let's take a look at Tesla's scenario where it was we are above price action. In addition, we are starting already to see a recovery. Okay, starting to see recovery. Price action is above buy. Price action is not above. Price action is not above, not above, not above. And again, price action is what? Price action is, it's hard to tell if price action is above or below. It looks like when it occurred, price action was below. So it was below. The interesting thing here is that, well, there's only one data point that we have here. So that's kind of weak. And I wouldn't want to be paying too much attention to this one data point here. But basically, the single time where price action was above and we're seeing recovery, it only occurred once in the past almost 10 years that we looked at so far. I think 9 years of the QQQ, and there were just a single occurrence and it was bullish. Now, this doesn't mean that Tesla is going to be bullish, but it just at least speaks to the fact that my conclusion here, and also from my feeling of, first of all, when you have moving averages below, again, they act as support, generally speaking, and also looking through all those previous charts over there, it doesn't seem like it's a signal to be too concerned about, especially when you have price action above it and you are in the middle of recovery. And when I'm saying this is the middle of recovery, I'm talking about a more of a multi-week or month perspective here. This also, if you were to look at it more closely here, this is not looking like a recovery in the moment right here. So that's another thing to be paying attention to. And if we end up going below both moving averages, that is something that's just inherently bearish if we end up going and closing below these moving averages here. So that's something that for me, would hold more weight. If we just go below these moving averages, I would expect potentially lower lows. And we talked about in our prior updates about where we could expect to see price going and some key areas basically of the next areas of support and where price could potentially go down in terms of if Tesla was going to sell off to the downside. And I would say that just specifically holding above these moving averages here is pretty important and pretty key to get this trend that is starting to go to continue to the upside and avoid a potential significant sell-off. Well, what do you guys think about Tesla's death cross that is forming here? Is this something that we should be more concerned about? Do you guys agree with the data points that we looked at around here so far? Do they tell something that we just should not really be paying attention to them in terms of what we kind of concluded so far? And even in the case where we try to make a similar example that to of what's going on with Tesla, it seems that it could be more bullish, but again, very split, very mixed, definitely not conclusive. Well, I hope you guys got some value from this content. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel for more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.